Hey Scouters, this is Cowboy713 from FishingScout, and today I'm going to go ahead and teach y'all how to tie the Clouser Minnow. This is a very effective, very efficient fly. Pretty easy to tie, and anybody can do it. I used to tie them all the time without even having a vise to do it with. And they'll catch just about anything. I think, was it Bob Clouser said something about he had caught 67 different species on this fly with saltwater and freshwater, so it's a pretty good testament as to how effective this fly is. So let me get set up real quick. Okay, so the type of clouser I want to tie today is a bead chain clouser. It's a little bit different from your standard clouser because it uses a bead chain, a pair of bead chain balls for eyes rather than your standard clouser eyes. Today I'm going to use just a plain straight long shank J hook. It's the same type of hook you would use for maybe crappie fishing or something like that, but it works great for these flies. So I'm going to go ahead and turn this just a little bit and put the hook in the clamp just like that. Sorry, this is a little bumpy. My camera's set up on my tying stand. Now next we're going to use the bobbin here. This is a tool used for tying the thread to the fly. This is able to turn as I need it to, and it holds the line on there, and it makes it a lot easier to be able to wrap the fly up. So we're going to go ahead and do some preliminary wraps here. So now that I've got a few there, turn this just a bit. I'm going to go ahead and cut off the excess line right there and continue doing some wraps. We're going to go about halfway down the shank of the hook. Just about like that. Now we're going to take a few turns back. We're going to come back to about a third of the way down the hook. Right about, we'll do a few more. Right about there. So this basically locks the line into place. This is going to be set up where we're going to put our bead chain. Pull a bead chain out here. Like I said before, this is just a pair of bead chains or bead chain balls. What we're going to do now is we're going to go ahead and place the bead chain on top of the shank of the hook. Give me some more thread here. And then we're going to go over. I like to go 4 times over that way. Come back and go over it 4 times the other way. Make sure they're nice and straight. And then from there, we're going to do a figure 8 wrap around the eyes until they're nice and snug on there. This keeps the eyes from moving, locks them into place. Oops. And with this you can also go back over and just do some overhand wraps. There's really not a wrong way to do this as long as your eyes are set nice and snugly against the shank of the hook. Alright, now that those are on there nice and snug, we're going to go ahead and make a few more wraps towards the bend of the hook. Alright, now that those are nice and tight on there, The clouser I'm going to tie today is going to be white and olive. So I'm going to be pulling hairs from this bucktail here, and then I'm going to be pulling some hairs from this one here. But you see, I've got two different bucktails here, and they each have multiple different colors. I could do white and tan with this one, white on white. I can do tan on tan. I can do chartreuse and white. I can do olive and chartreuse. I can do there's even some black up in there in the tip. So there's lots of different color variations you can do with just a couple of bucktails. Some of the most effective ones are chartreuse and white, black on black, white on white, white on tan or gray, and then another one that has been pretty effective for a lot of people is an orange and white or a brown and white. I've even heard blue and white's a pretty good one, but I've never tied that. So now we're going to go up here to this upper portion of the bucktail here, and we're just going to pinch out a small section just like that. That doesn't have to be real thick. A lot of times actually the better clousers are the sparsely tied ones. But we're going to go through and we've got that little section of bucktail right there. Oops. And we're just going to go ahead and snip that off. We're going to go through and kind of brush out, because there's a downy fur that sits underneath this bucktail, and it's kind of a fuzzy stuff, and it kind of gets in the way of tying, and it's just not really a thing you really want in your fly. It won't really hurt it, but so you've got your small little section of bucktail right there. Now this is going to be the lower part of our fly. This is going to be the belly. So which with this fly, with these bead chains sitting on top of the shank at this point, when this flips over, this will be the bead chains will make this fly ride upside down from what it is right now. And so the hook point will be pointed up, which kind of helps you keep out of the snags and stuff like that. So we're going to go ahead and just place the bucktail over top like that. And now we're going to make some wraps. First one, you don't want to wrap it too tight, because what will happen is you'll either twist it over, or because the bucktail is hollow, you can actually pinch down the hair and the hairs will spread out like this. So we're trying to avoid doing that. You don't want your hairs to flare out on either side. But see how it's set right there? I want to make sure these stay nice and neat up here. I don't want them getting pushed all over the place. We're going to go ahead and wrap all the way back up to the eyes. Again, make sure everything's nice and straight and neat. Okay. So it's nice and straight out in this end. This is kind of bunched up here, but that's okay. Now we're going to go underneath that to get past the eyes. We're going to kind of pinch this down, and we're going to do the exact same thing past the eyes. Again, you want to make sure they stay straight. I'm kind of holding them right now. I get a couple wraps on here to keep them in place. Now at this point, you're going to wrap a few more times. I typically don't go all the way up to the eye of the hook at this point, but you're going to go through, you're going to pull this back, you're going to take your scissors, and you're just going to nip that off. That can go in the trash. So now you've got the beginnings of your fly here. Now, a lot of people will say you should use a thread to match the fly that you're tying, match the colors that you're doing. But for me, a lot of times I have found that's really not that necessary. The fish really don't care that much in my experience. I've caught tons of fish on these flies, even with having a black thread versus the white and other colored bodies. It's really not a critical aspect. Okay, now what I like to do right here is, and this is not necessary, but I like to do a half hitch around the nose of the fly, just kind of to lock my thread in place there. And now we're going to go ahead and flip the fly over. So you can see how those eyes are perpendicular to the hook. Lock that in place. You don't want to get your bucktails there inside the fly, or inside the clamp, the vise. That wouldn't be too good there. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to tie in some crystal flash. Now this one in particular is called Peacock Pearl, I think. But you're going to take about the length of the flash is going to be about the same length as your fly. Some people do it a little bit longer. I like to keep it the same length personally. And you're just going to snip that. So now I've got this little section of flash that's the same, about roughly the same length of my fly. And it's a little bit longer, but it's not going to hurt anything. Now you set that up right there, and you're going to get too much thread out here. Oops. You're going to tie that in just like you did with the bucktail. Make a few wraps there, make sure it's on there real good. Alright, so now your flash is tied in. You kind of make sure that's straight over top of the fly. That's good there, it looks like. And then you're going to go through these little bits that are sticking out up here at the eye of the fly. You're going to go ahead and snip those off. You don't need them. Be careful when you're doing this. I have gone through and accidentally snipped my thread, and it kind of bums you out because you have to start all over. And now we're going to go through and pick out the olive for the fly. We're going to go through right here, and we'll go right there. It's a good little bunch, and we'll go for a little bit longer. That'll work. We're going to go through and pick out the hairs that we want. Which I like I like to make the top of my fly a little bit longer than the bottom of it. We're going to go through and snip them down here at the base. So now we have our little tuft of olive bucktail. Again, we're going to go through and kind of brush out this downy stuff in the bottom. A lot of people will use actual little combs and stuff. I find it just as easy just to flick it out with your finger. It's really not a crucial thing. And then also there's a couple little chartreuse hairs in there. I want to kind of kick those out. Alright, now we're going to do the exact same thing we did with the white. We're going to place that over the top, making sure it's kind of centered over the hook there. And now we're going to go through and wrap it again. Again, you want to make sure this stays nice and straight. Now that I've got a few wraps in there, I'll make sure it's straight again, and we'll go ahead and snip out this extra up here at the tip, up at the eye of the hook. There we go. Make sure all these little excess hairs are trimmed off. That's good enough. We'll go through and wrap that down. Again, I apologize for this being a little shaky. best way to set up the camera was to set it up on my tying stand. Well, it's making it jump around a little bit. And at this point, so here is your clouser. There's your fly. You got the olive up here on top, you got the white on the bottom, you got the flash in the middle, and there's a, there we go. It's tied. You want to kind of make a nice cone shape up to the hair here. You can tie a little bit more here, and if you really come back down here where the hair is, and if I was to pinch that off right there, these hairs would all flare up. And depending on what type of bait fish you're working with, that's not a terrible thing. If the bait fish that you're, or in the area that you're used to fishing, or say, you know, brim, bluegills, perch, something along those lines, it's not a terrible thing because those fish have a larger profile. But if you're fishing somewhere that has minnows, you're going to want this fly to be a little bit more streamlined. So there's the fly. Basically, we're going to go through and I'm going to hitch off the nose. This is called a whip finish. Most fly tiers use a tool for this. I find it just as easy to use my fingers for it. You're basically just making a lockdown wrap around the eye of the fly there. Take my bodkin, cinch that off. I like to stick it through the eye of the fly so I can make sure that's pulled down nice and tight. And at this point, we're going to go through and snip that off, and there you have it. There is your finished Clouser Minnow. Now, next thing I'm going to do to make sure everything stays in place is I am going to lock down and put some cement on here. You can buy professional fly tying cement. I like to use Sally Hansen's hard as nails nail polish, just because it's cheap. It's readily available. You can get it at Walmart. You can get it at, you know, your local drugstore, CVS, Walgreens, wherever you like to go. You don't have to go to Bass Pro or Cabela's to get this stuff, or a fly shop. And it works out great. It gives a nice glossy finish to the areas where you apply it, and it locks in your thread really well. It does have a scent to it. It does smell like fingernail polish, but that is okay, because once it's dry and you get this fish or this fly in the water, the scent's not really going to be noticeable anymore, and the fish really don't care. But anyway, this is Cowboy713 signing out. Hope y'all had a great one. Hope y'all enjoyed learning how to tie the Clouser Minnow, and I hope y'all catch lots of fish on it. Until next time, tight lines. We'll see you later.